The Battle of Shiloh was fought between the 6th and 7th of April in 1862. This battle is also known as Pittsburgh Landing due to its location in Tennessee. This allowed Union troops to penetrate the Confederate interior. However, the aftermath was unprecedented, and the casualties were the deadliest of the war up to that time. There were over 110,000 forces engaged from both sides, and by day's end on the 7th, it's estimated that over 23,000 were killed, missing, or captured within 2 days of combat. Both the medical staff of the Union and the Confederacy were overwhelmed and under-equipped to handle the magnitude of wounded soldiers. At this time, early in 1862, there was no ambulance corps of either side. This meant stretcher bearers were untrained and there was very few wagons to transport the wounded off the battlefield to makeshift hospitals. This meant many wounded soldiers were left where they fell, and many soldiers on both sides during this battle were left in fields for more than 48 hours, where they lay in rain, mud, and blood. The wounded soldiers were left exposed to the elements. One interesting phenomena was reported during the nights after the battle. When the sun set, an eerie bluish-greenish glow began to show in several areas among the darkened Tennessee battlefield, and strangely, the wounds of some stranded soldiers emitted the same glow. No one at the time had any knowledge of what this strange light portended. Some doctors and nurses noted that those whose wounds had glowed had a higher survival rate than their comrades whose wounds were not illuminated. They noted the wounds among those who had been glowing had a higher healing rate and were much cleaner than the wounded who didn't glow. Due to these seemingly magical properties, the phenomenon became known as angel glow. It wasn't until over 100 years later that we get to know what took place that night. In 2001, Bill Martin and his family visited the Shiloh National Military Park, where they heard the strange story of angel glow. With the help of his mother, who is a microbiologist, his friend John Curtis, and the help of advanced technology, they would single out the bacterium that saved countless lives. Photorhabdus luminescens is a bacterium that lives in the gut of parasitic nematodes. What we now know as roundworms, these worms would vomit up the bioluminescent bacteria, and if these bacteria were added to a human body, these bacteria would kill other microbes living on the host's body. And in this case, that was the wounded soldiers from Shiloh. A small team studied the historical records of the nighttime conditions during the time of the battle. Normally, these bacteria would die at human temperatures. However, the team found out the temperatures during the nights in April 1862 were low enough for soldiers to develop hypothermia. And this hypothermia allowed the bioluminescent bacteria to survive and multiply within the wounds of soldiers that killed off competing parasitic bacteria that helped save the lives of countless soldiers. It was not uncommon for entire units of men to fall ill with disease throughout the Civil War. But this eerie angel's glow has been reported at Gettysburg as well as throughout historical wars. There are theories that it showed up during the Napoleonic Wars as well as in the trenches from the First World War. However, it was at Shiloh that it's the only well-documented case of bacteria affecting humans in positive ways.